Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wrestling with the Apester. I am the Apester himself, of course. Um, I am in the comfort of my game room, very comfortably and very hot in here. So, man, it would be nice to have some ventilation in here, but whatever. Today we have quite the topic to talk about. It is the Brothers of Destruction. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you here. I didn't know what to upload next. I didn't know what to put up next. So I thought, why not talk about the story of the Brothers of Destruction? Because man, it is one of my favorite teams ever. Oh, dude, like where do I even start with this? Um, it literally this storyline between the Brothers of Destruction, to me, in my opinion, is the greatest story ever told. Period. This tops the Bloodline story. Yes, you heard that correctly from me. Go ahead. Go ahead, shout me out and, you know, just go off on me on my Facebook page, which will be in the description below of this podcast. Go ahead. Go off on me. Brothers of Destruction, number one, honestly, number one storyline ever in WWE history, ever. WWF, WWE, whatever, history. So, we're going to be talking basically about the early stages of the Brothers of Destruction, how it came to be. Um, you know, how they thought of Kane of being the good Glenn Jacobs, as I should say, who is playing the part of Kane. How it kind of came to be, which is pretty simple, honestly, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I do have an article pulled up here, even though I know about 90% of the story by heart. But just in case if I forget anything here, I do have it put up here. This is on the Wikipedia, of course. Wikipedia is always right, I guess. So this is just as of Wikipedia. I'm on the fictional backstory section here, so if you want to read along with me. Paul Bear, Undertaker's longtime manager and Kane's storyline father. It just shows a picture of Paul Bear. But, man, it all started with Paul Bear. Paul Bear debuted, I'm not 100% sure. I know it was 1991. I want to see if they have it here. His debut, no, that ain't right. 1974. That was his debut, I believe, in wrestling. I need to know his debut in WWE. So while I look for that, Paul Bear did unfortunately pass away March 5th, 2013, at the age of 58 years old. I believe it was a heart attack. Yeah, this is right. It calls it death heart attack. Very unfortunate. The next year, I believe he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, which was pretty cool. Man, I wish he was around for that speech. That would have been so cool. I believe it was his sons that came out on his behalf, and it was such a cool induction in the Hall of Fame. He definitely deserved it. But Paul Bear seems as though he was part of the United States Air Forces in the 70s. And it's very ironic because Paul Bear eventually ended up being a real Paul Bear. He ended up being a real, like a Paul Bear, basically working in a funeral home. And it just worked out so perfectly. So he debuted. I believe, right here, 1990 to 1996, managing The Undertaker. December 22nd, 1990. So let's just go back a little bit here. Just a little bit. We're going to go back to The Undertaker when he debuted. So he debuted in 1990. I know that for a fact. Sorry if you heard that vibration. That was just a text message I just got. So Undertaker debuted. Let's see. I want to know for WWE, though. WWE, I don't know the exact date. I know it was Survivor Series of 1990. I'm just looking at it right now. Just give me 1 second. Excuse me. 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm getting text messages. If you don't know, I use my phone. If you don't, if you didn't listen to the first episode, I highly recommend you do. It basically just goes on and says, what got me into podcasting and stuff like that. And in that podcast, I ended up saying I record from my phone for now. So, yeah, I guess get used to that for now. So World Championship Wrestling. So Undertaker joined World Championship Wrestling 1989, but that'll be on another episode when I talk about Undertaker, like specifically Undertaker, because I didn't know exactly if I should talk about the Brothers of Destruction and go in depth with Kane and Undertaker, but I feel like Undertaker and Kane, like talking about the Brothers of Destruction right now versus talking about both of their careers together, like it would be a very long podcast. So I feel like I could split that up between 3 different podcasts. So this one we're going to be talking about them as a unit, them as a team, and then their rivalry. In another episode, I'll talk about just Kane's career, and in another episode, I'll talk about just Undertaker's career specifically. So if that makes any sense. So it says right here, in October of 1990, The Undertaker, or Mark Calloway is his real name, signed with the World Wrestling Federation, set to portray the character McMahon created, originally entitled Kane the Undertaker, and I'll get to that in just a minute. The inclusion of Kane was the suggestion of Bruce Pritchard, who had always desired a Cain and Abel effect for his character. So that's basically how the Kane character came up to be. For The Undertaker, I should say, not his brother Kane, quote-unquote brother. And I'll get into all that in a little bit. I know I'm all over the place here. I apologize. November 19th, 1990. Taping of WWE Superstars, quickly defeating Mario Mancini. I didn't even know that. Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. He actually debuted before. So November 19th, 1990, it was a taping of WWF Superstars, quickly defeating Mario Mancini. I didn't even know that. But obviously everybody knows Survivor Series 1990. It was the $1 Million Team versus the Dream Team. And the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who was the head of that team, they had a mystery partner, and that ended up being The Undertaker, who was introduced. He was brought out by Brother Love, which is pretty crazy to think that a guy like Brother Love, talking about love and all that other stuff, coming out with the demon of hell, which is like heaven and hell combined together in a way. So it's like, it didn't make any sense, honestly. But thank God they did away with that. What was that noise? Jesus. Let me see. So in February 1991, Brother Love delegated his short-lived management role to The Undertaker over to Paul Bearer, stating that the need for someone who better aligned with Undertaker's Dead Man themes. So obviously that made sense. But I need to know exactly Survivor Series 1990 when that aired for just 1 second here. Let me just go ahead and find that for you. I should have... Survivor Series 1990. Let me see. So I just want to look real quickly. So it was November 22nd, 1990. Undertaker made his debut. I know I said 90. I knew 90% of the damn story, but I'm sorry, man. I don't know the exact dates, all right? So please don't go off on me. So anyway, Paul Bearer was introduced in 1991, as I just said, basically because it would just fit Undertaker better. And it did in real life and in story, because Paul Bearer had that look. He came out with that very pale face with the makeup under his eyes, and in real life perspective, he was a better manager because he was a real Paul Bearer. He worked in a funeral home for real. And Undertaker had that character at the time where he was a Western mortician. Basically, he was an Undertaker. If you ever go to like a Western bar, and you see like that guy with the dark head, like that dark theme, like that hat, and that's basically The Undertaker. That's his name. But earlier in his career, he came out as Kane the Undertaker. So it's kind of like Bret the Hitman Hart. But they ended up doing away with Kane, like I said, the name Kane. And they just stuck with The Undertaker. And eventually the name Kane ended up going to Glenn Jacobs, who played the role again of Kane in 1997, which we'll get to that shortly. So I think we're going to fast forward here a little bit. So Paul Bearer manages Undertaker. It's 1991. Let's see, 92, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about 5 or 6 years go by. Undertaker's on a warpath here, and they're looking for a viable contender for Undertaker. Undertaker's defeated everybody. He's undefeated well, not the undefeated, but like, he's put down everybody, and they needed a new competitor for him. So this is where they came up with Kane. So they called Glenn Jacobs up and said, hey, how would you like to play this role of Kane? You're basically Undertaker's brother, and, that's the story, and you were killed in a fire, and I'll get to the story in a minute. As to, the full story, I should say. So obviously Glenn Jacobs agreed to it, and he showed up at the In Your House Bad Blood pay-per-view, 1997, and the rest was history. That was it. So, the story behind the Brothers of Destruction. So Paul Bear, where do I start with this one? So I'm going to start with SummerSlam of 1996. I believe it was SummerSlam of 1996. Undertaker had a feud with Mankind. Everybody knows him as Mick Foley. It was a Boiler Room Brawl match. And basically, the point of the match, to win the match, you had to basically escape the Boiler Room and get to the ring where Paul Bear was standing. And he had the urn in his hand doing all the thing. And back in the day, Paul Bear used to be like, oh, yeah, he used to talk with that high-pitched voice. And that was back then. Now, so in the middle of the match, they're having their match in the Boiler Room. Eventually, Mankind and Kane make their way to the crowd, to the entranceway and the stage and all that. And Undertaker puts down Mankind, and at that point, it's like, all right, Undertaker's gonna win. We're gonna see Paul Bear give the urn to Undertaker. It's so obvious because they're teaming together. Like, hello. So Undertaker gets in the ring. He gets on one knee, like he does that little, the little knee thing he does, and he puts his arms out to have Paul Bear give him the urn. All of a sudden, Paul Bear hits the Undertaker in the head with the urn and turns on the Undertaker. And Mankind comes in the ring. He basically gives Mankind the urn, and Mankind is the winner. And at that point, Paul Bear and Mankind walk away. Undertaker's in the ring. Druids, I believe, in the match as well came out and took the Undertaker, and that was actually the last time Undertaker competed in that purple gear until he made his in-ring return. I don't remember what event it was, but I know Paul Bear, I believe, was in a shark cage, and Undertaker made his entrance with bat wings. This, I believe, was 1997, so he came out with bat wings coming down from the rafters. It was a really cool entrance. It was probably one of my favorite entrances from The Undertaker ever. Man, it was so cool to see that. And you can see Undertaker in his new gear. It's all black. It's not black and purple like it was with the purple gloves and all that. So he came out all black gear and put his arm through the shark cage where Paul Bear was, like trying to grab Paul Bear and all that. But yeah, so that was basically the start of Paul Bear turning on the Undertaker. So from there, Mankind and Paul Bear, I believe one night on Monday Night Raw, they came out, and Paul Bear was doing his high-pitched promo, oh, yeah, and then eventually, very slowly, Paul Bear's high-pitched voice started going away. Paul Bear started using his real voice, well, not his real voice, but like, he would talk with like a deeper voice now, and I'm sure everybody knows this, especially if you were born back in the day and you remember the Attitude Era, you know what I'm talking about. That he faded away from the high-pitched voice all the way to the a little bit deeper voice that he had. And that was that promo. But eventually, Paul Bear one night on Monday Night Raw came out, and he was like, listen, Undertaker, I have a secret. I literally have a secret. And I think there was like a stipulation, I think in a match or something, or like, oh, if you put your hands on me, I'm going to tell the secret or something. And But anyway, Paul Bear comes out to cut this promo. Now at this point, Paul Bear does not have the makeup. He doesn't have, his hair's not black anymore. Now it's like a blonde, like a dark blondish, like a dirty blondish, and he's coming out like no mustache. So Paul Bear comes out and he's cutting this promo, and this is probably one of the most iconic promos of all time, in my opinion. He comes out and he basically says, and this is where this article comes in. I'm not going to read the article yet, but I'm just going to describe it in my own words, and then I'll read the article out to you. So basically, he says that Undertaker had a brother. And for the 6 years that Paul Bear and Undertaker were together, Paul Bear has been hiding this secret for a long time. Ever since the beginning, honestly, and it's such a deep, dark secret. And Undertaker, and he was basically telling Undertaker, you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly what it is. So anyway, back to the Paul Bear promo. So Paul Bear comes out and he cuts this promo and he says Undertaker basically has a brother. He has a brother, and Undertaker and the brother, said brother, his name was Kane. Kane and Undertaker lived together, of course, on a beautiful home, a ranch home. And by the way, this is a fictional story, guys, so don't believe this, please. For people that say, are Undertaker and Kane really brothers? The answer is no. I mean, maybe at heart, yeah, they would say they're brothers in real life, but not on paper, like they're not actual brothers in real life. No. So just to put that out there before I continue. So anyway, Undertaker and Kane, of course, their mom and dad, they live with their mom and dad in a funeral home. And one night, Undertaker, and I'm reading the article just a little bit here, Undertaker in his teens, he tried to commit an arson murder. And basically, Paul Bear, I believe, had went out one night, and he came back, and what happened? He came back, he saw fire trucks, he saw steam. By the way, this is the promo that Paul Bear is talking. Like, he's talking and he's saying these things. Like, he's saying he saw steam, fire, and he saw fire trucks, ambulances, police officers. He saw all this, the whole 9 yards. They were all there. Everybody was there. The funeral home was on fire. Literally on fire. And who was in the bushes? The Undertaker. And who was inside the funeral home? His parents and his little brother Kane. Oh boy, does this story get really interesting now from here. So now, this is where the secret kind of comes in too, a little bit, where Undertaker, he knows about it, but he doesn't. Like, he knows the story is true, but what he doesn't realize is that what Paul Bear stated is that his brother is still alive from that fire. And I'll discuss everything with the mask in a second, why he comes out with a mask. And thank God he did, because it's pretty cool. I'm going to read a little bit of the article here. During the Undertaker's teens, he intentionally committed an arson murder, burning down his parents' family funeral home. In the process, killing them as well as the younger brother, or so the Undertaker thought. Bear, who oblivious to the Undertaker at the time, was present during the fire, hid Kane in a mental asylum during the rest of Kane's youth into childhood. Unbeknownst to the Undertaker until spring of 1998, his late mother had an affair with Paul Bear, and as a result gave birth to Kane, therefore making Kane his half-brother. In the fall of 1998, the Undertaker admitted to setting that fire that scarred Kane's face. Sorry, I can't talk today. And in the same process, killed their mother and the Undertaker's father. Undertaker reasoned that he had always known that Kane was the weaker and worthless of their mother's children. Wow. That is absolutely incredible to read that. It's pretty crazy how that all ties in. And it all ties in with the debut because, man, it was just insane. So Undertaker, basically, after this promo comes out, he chokes out. Now, bear in mind, Paul Bearer did not state that Kane was alive until this moment. So Undertaker comes out, he's choking Paul Bearer out, he's choking him out, all that near the ring steps, and Paul Bearer is basically saying, it's true, he's alive, Undertaker, Kane's alive, I swear, I'm telling the truth. And then Undertaker is looking at him like in disbelief, like whoa, like I don't believe you. Either that, or he was staring at him with a look like you shouldn't have said that. You know what I mean? And it kind of angered the Undertaker, like, shit, my brother's still alive, and now he's choking him out. He's choking Paul Bearer. And I believe this was a week before the Monday Night Raw, before the pay-per-view of the In Your House Bad Blood In Your House pay-per-view in 1997. Undertaker or Paul Bearer, man, I cannot speak today. I'm sorry, you have to bear with me here. Paul Bearer basically goes on the Titantron, and he goes, "Kane's coming, Kane's alive. He's coming for you, brother. He's coming for you, Undertaker. He's coming." And Undertaker's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I don't believe it until Kane's debut. Oh boy, I can't wait to talk about this one. So before I do, I'm going to read off this article a little bit. We're going to go back just a little bit here. We're going to backtrack a little bit. While hiding his son away for years and apparently keeping this information confidential, Bearer, in the meantime, joined the World Wrestling Federation and forged an alliance with The Undertaker. Paul Bearer stood by his side for 6 years before eventually turning on him at SummerSlam of 1996. After suffering repeated acts of retaliatory, I hope I pronounced that right, mistreatment of the hands of The Undertaker, who was filled with rancor and bitterness over the betrayal incident, Bear opted to exact vengeance of his own with an ultimatum to either allow him to once again take over Undertaker as manager now that he had won the WWF Championship, or deal with the disclosure of his darkest secret. Okay, now I'm starting to remember. Okay. So this is why I had the article pulled up, because some of it I don't remember. I do know 90% of it, but I don't know a lot of it. So Undertaker at the time, he had won, I believe it was WrestleMania, he had won, for the second time in his career, he won the WWF Championship. Paul Bearer eventually comes out, and he basically says, be my, I want to be your manager again, and if not, then I'm going to reveal your deepest, darkest secrets. And obviously Undertaker, oh, wait, no. Hang on. No, let me read this on. So, Undertaker, I'm reading this now. Feeling he had no choice in the matter, The Undertaker eventually obliged Bear and became his protege, though not like old times. While managing, quote-unquote, Undertaker this time around, Bear took to abrasively overbearing and harassing behaviors toward him at every turn. At numerous points in which Undertaker attempted to take attitude, disobey, or even defend himself, Bear would subjugate. Sorry, these words are huge for me, man. I'm an idiot. I can't read these words. Him by subjugate him by threatening exposure of the dark secret. Eventually, Undertaker lost his patience and refused to allow Bear to manage him any longer, leading to Bear's exposure of the secret, which is what I talked about. That Undertaker had a brother, and Kane survived the fire. In the funeral home. At this point in time, Undertaker denied the charges of committing the arson murders, claiming his younger brother, quote-unquote, pyromaniac, was the culprit and, due to the incident, couldn't possibly be alive. Note that Undertaker, this is in parentheses now, note that The Undertaker would reveal himself as the intentional arsonist a year later. So yeah, a year later, Undertaker would cut a promo. It was like in a locker room, like it was dark and blue, and Undertaker was like, yep, I did it. That's right. I'm the one that burned the funeral home and all that. So this was basically in the rivalry with Kane, and I'll discuss that a little later on. But let me continue here. Bear accused The Undertaker of not only being a murderer, but a liar, while The Undertaker continued to deny the charges. Kane had been scarred by the fire, and to conceal Jacob's identity, Jacob's referring to Kane, The character wore a mask, sported long hair, and wore red and black ring attire that almost covered his entire body. And it basically says here, after unmasking in 2003, it was unveiled that Kane had no physical scars from the fire. The reasoning being the scars were psychological in the form of severe body dysmorphia, convinced that he was hideously burned and scarred, when in fact the scars had either long since healed or had never existed at all. Now, guys, by the way, this Undertaker story, I don't mean in real life. I mean, let's say this is 1997 right now. It's 1997. This is a 30-year story. So this happened like 20 years ago from 1997. So 97 is the 87. So around 1977 is when this happened. The events of this fictional story is when all of this happened. So basically, so now this takes us to Kane's debut. They're building up Kane's debut. They're like, oh, Kane's alive, he's here and he's coming. And Undertaker's just like, yeah. So anyway, this takes us to, let me see if I can find it here. Kane's debut in 1997. So Undertaker won the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 13, which was in 1997, of course. Earlier in 1997, he started a feud with Mankind, which I already discussed this. The Paul Bearer Undertaker feud escalated at April's Revenge of the Taker in Your House event, when the Undertaker launched a fireball into the face of his former manager. And I forgot about that, actually. So when Paul Bearer was doing his promo, like, oh, Kane's coming, he's coming, this was like a week before the pay-per-view. Paul Bearer had like his face bandaged up because Undertaker had thrown a fireball at him. That's something I completely forgot. So the Bad Blood in Your House pay-per-view, it took place October 5th, 1997 at the Kiel Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Undertaker was scheduled to face the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. And it was the first ever Hell in a Cell match. And Undertaker, of course, has his history with Hell in a Cell matches, of course, especially a year later with Mankind, and oh my god, that was an absolutely violent match. I will get to that. Sorry, I'm playing with the arcade cabinet here. So we'll get to that match, obviously, in the Undertaker podcast when I get to it. Thank God I'm making this 3 separate podcasts. Let me just make sure I'm still recording here, and I absolutely am. Yes, I am. So, back to the article here. So, basically, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had a rivalry, and it was inside the first Hell in a Cell. Nobody knew what to expect, with the Hell in a Cell. They were promoting it for a little bit, and, it's basically the steel cage, but bigger, and it has a top to it. And I guess this was an idea that I think Bruce Pritchard had, or somebody backstage had the idea to put a top on it and make it bigger and call it a day. It was about 20 to 26 feet high, I believe, and now the steel cage, I believe, is about another foot higher, another 2 or 3 feet higher. I'm not 100% sure. But basically in the match, it was an awesome match. Let's just say that, first of all. It was an incredible match. Eventually, Shawn Michaels gets busted open. So let's get to the part that you guys really want to hear about. So Undertaker was about to finish off Shawn Michaels. He puts his hand around his throat, his hand on his throat, ready to signal in the end, ready to give him a tombstone. All of a sudden, the lights go out. Kane's music starts to play. Now, nobody knew at the time what this was. There was a music playing in the background. Nobody knew what was going on, what was it? I was going to say Michael Cole. Geez, Mr. McMahon on commentary at the time, like, what is this? What's going on, And I believe he was on commentary with JR, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't quite remember. Let me see. Yeah, it was JR. Yeah, it was. Because I remember JR saying, he's huge, whoever he is. So, anyway, so the music's playing, it's dark, nobody knows what's going on. All of a sudden, the theme, like the main chorus of the theme, and then it starts playing. Out comes Paul Bearer. And who is next to Paul Bearer? It is none other than Glenn Jacobs, or as we all know as Kane, Undertaker's brother, who we thought died in a fire. Undertaker is in the ring. Shawn Michaels is knocked out on the ground in the ring. Undertaker is looking at the entrance as if to say, like that. It's like his parents left him at home alone for like 5 minutes, and the parents come back, and the house is a mess. And Undertaker looks at the parents like, "Uh-oh, like he's about to kill me," like that kind of look. But at the same time, like in shock. Like he was in shock. Like Undertaker, I don't think in the 6 years or the 7 years that Undertaker had been in WWE that we had ever seen that character with a face like that. At the time, nobody's ever seen that Undertaker look like that ever. We've never seen Undertaker with that look on his face of like worry and like at the same time like in just disbelief. Like you survived the fire. Like, holy crap, it's true. Like, you really did survive the fire. So Kane's coming out, and oh my god, what does Kane do? Now, guys, bear in mind, this cage has a top on it. You can't get inside. The door is chained shut. Kane grabs the steel door. He rips it right off at the hinges. I keep saying Undertaker, I'm sorry. Kane makes his way into the ring. He freaking destroys the referee that's outside of the ring. He climbs in the ring, climbs over the top rope, stares down the Undertaker face to face. They're the same height as each other. And at the time, there wasn't many people back then that were his height, if not taller. What, Diesel? Maybe Hulk Hogan? But then again, Hulk Hogan was in WCW at the time. So, man, it was crazy. We had never seen anybody Undertaker's height or close to it ever since, what, Giant Gonzalez and Diesel? Huh. Man, so Kane comes out. The first thing Kane does, Kane and Undertaker, they're staring each other down. By the way, I'm not reading this article at all. This is all coming from me. Like, I know this story like the back of my hand. So Kane basically raises his arms up. Undertaker doesn't know what's going on. So so I'll get to the story as to how Kane came up with it in a minute, but Kane basically raises his arms up. Undertaker's looking at his arms like, what the hell's he doing? And then he puts his arms down, and all of a sudden a bunch of pyro comes out from all four sides of the ring. Undertaker's looking around like, whoa, like what was that? All of a sudden, he gets chokeslammed by Kane and put down with a tombstone pile driver. Kane walks out of the Hell in a Cell, walks away with Paul Bear. Shawn Michaels gets the win over The Undertaker by crawling to The Undertaker, gets the win. That was the end of the match. Holy crap, this was absolutely fantastic. Fantastic debut. This was, my opinion, the greatest debut of all time. I don't want to hear it. The greatest debut of all time, the greatest story of all time. I don't care. So how did Kane come up with the whole arm thing? So apparently, and I'll get to the head tilt too, because the head tilt is very synonymous with Kane as well. So basically, he came up with the arm thing. You know how he raises up his arms and puts it down and fire comes out? So he wanted to do everything kind of the opposite of The Undertaker. So when Undertaker made his entrance, he'd put his arms up and the lights would come on. Now, when Kane, he puts his arms up and puts them down, fire comes up, and it's kind of like the opposite. You know, the lights go out and the fire comes up, you know? It's kind of a little bit the opposite. And he also has very, very similar moves to The Undertaker, which makes it more like a little bit more mysterious in a way. Like, oh, he's doing the same moves that he does. Like, what? Like, this is crazy. Like, they're brothers, you know? And this was such a crazy storyline. So the next night, Kane comes out with Paul Bear and basically says, let me introduce to you Kane. And he's talking about Kane. And he takes out the Hardy Boys at one point. The Hardy Boys were out for a match. All of a sudden, Kane makes his entrance. And this is his Raw debut, I believe, the next night. And he takes out he throws the Hardy Boys out, like, rip Matt and Jeff Hardy. At the time, they were like jobbers. So, you know, Paul Bear's cutting a promo on him and basically talking about Kane, how Kane wears the mask because it hides his identity, it hides the scarring and stuff and the burns from the fire, and how his I believe it was his right eye is also like it was affected as well, and you can see it. his right eye, and the camera zooms into the right eye, and it's like so scary. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. It was creepy. So, let me get to the head tilt now. So, Kane is I keep saying Undertaker, I'm sorry. Kane is very synonymous with tilting his head sideways, side to side. Now, I did not find this out until I watched Kane and Undertaker's episode of WWE's Most Wanted Treasures. If you don't watch that, it's on A&E. Every Sunday, they put up a new episode. I'm not sure which episode is going to be up this Sunday or tomorrow, because today's Saturday, July 15th to be exact, which I forgot to tell you the date. That's obviously required here to tell you the date. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so going back to the head tilt. So in the intro and in the episode too, Kane basically says, "Listen, you know how I came up with the head tilt? My dog, basically." So I guess his dog, whenever he'd give his dog like a treat or like a toy or whatever, his dog would tilt his head. And Kane decided to add that to his character, and tilt his head, and it made it more mysterious, gave it more mystique. And I thought it really did give it more mystique. But Kane, again, he's saying Undertaker. Kane came out, he would come out with that red and black gear, like his one of his sleeves was exposed, the other one wasn't, with the glove in his hand, his glove, and it was just such an iconic character. I absolutely loved it. So going into the story of Undertaker and Kane, the feud, the rivalry, all that. So basically, I'm going to sum it up here before I start reading the article again, but basically, Kane kept attacking The Undertaker. Weeks and weeks go by, months even go by, and Kane attacks Undertaker, or he's calling out The Undertaker, like, "Hey, let's have a match, let's do it, let's fight, let's do something." And Undertaker keeps refusing because, hey, like, you're my brother. Like, I'm not going to fight my brother. So this is similar to the Dominic Mysterio, Rey Mysterio story. Very similar to the Dominic Mysterio, Rey Mysterio story. So if you have not seen that, I recommend that as well. But basically, and it's funny because I'm looking at a Kane mask right now. In my game room, I have in my corner, my upper left-hand corner over there, I have a Kane mask. It's on like a foam head, and it has like the long hair, and it's really cool. I'm looking at it right now. It's so badass. Anyway, so Undertaker's refusing to fight his brother. He's like, "Listen, you're my brother. I'm not going to fight my brother." And eventually, I believe it was a casket match at the Royal Rumble 1998. It was against Shawn Michaels. I am reading the article a little bit here. And all of a sudden, Kane comes out and he costs him the match. But the highlight, obviously, of the match is Kane puts Undertaker in the casket. He rolls the casket to the stage area, and he goes to the backstage area, comes back with a can of gas, a gasoline can. He pours the gasoline on the casket, and Paul Bear had some matches. He gives it to Kane. Kane throws the matches on the gasoline, and a raging inferno all over the casket. The casket's on fire. Undertaker is inside the casket, and the commentators are selling it like, "Oh my God, there's a man in there. He's on fire," whatever. Let me see. So after that, so basically, again, I'm just skimming through this article here. So 2 months later, Kane and Paul Bear, I believe they had like a funeral of sorts for The Undertaker. So there was nothing set up in the ring. Basically, they had like a 10-bell salute, and they came out and they were like, "Hey, listen, like, who else wants to come up to Kane?" He was challenging people in the crowd, like, "Hey, how would you like to step up to a tombstone again to Kane?" Or, "How about you, JR, in commentary? How about you, JR? Would you like to get tombstoned by Kane?" or whatever. All of a sudden, the lights go out, and we hear the gongs. Gong, gong, gong. And it's going on for an eternity, man, at this point. The gongs are just going on eternity, and the crowd's going crazy for this, you know? This is 2 months later after he got burned in the casket. So, Jerry Lawler selling it, he's like, "JR, like, stop those damn bells. Like, why are you tolling him?" JR is like, "Listen, I'm right next to you. I'm not the one doing it." But Paul Bear is the one that brought this up, by the way. He goes, "JR, that's enough of those bells. Stop tolling those bells." And Jerry Lawler's like, "Is that you doing it?" And JR was like, "No, that's not me. I'm sitting right next to you. What am I doing? I don't know what's going on, you know?" The gongs keep going off. This is like 3 minutes straight of just gong, 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 gong. And then Paul Bear's is like, that's enough of the bells, whatever. All of a sudden, the theme song starts to play. Undertaker's theme's playing. There's a casket set up on the stage. All of a sudden, a lightning bolt strikes on that casket. And who is on top of it? The Undertaker is on top of it. He rises up. The crowd goes crazy for this. Kane is in the ring just looking. I can't see it now. Nobody can see his face, his reaction, because Kane is under a mask. You can't see his reaction. But my assumption is that his face was like, holy crap. Like, how did you do that? Like, in disbelief. Like, whoa. Like, how the hell did you survive that? So Undertaker rises up. He stands up. There's smoke in front of him. He has a microphone on his ear, and he's talking. At the time, he's talking. Hang on one second, guys. I'm getting a phone call here. I keep getting a phone call. Excuse me 1 minute here. Hang on. Excuse me just one moment, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta take this phone call. Let's see if I can take it. Excuse me one moment. I apologize, everybody. I hope that didn't interfere with the podcast. I apologize again in advance for that. It was just a phone call I had. Keep getting text messages. Excuse me. Anyway, so going back to the whole promo. So Undertaker, he's cutting this promo, and what's scary about it is that Undertaker's talking without a microphone. Like, am I the only one that was just looking at it like, whoa? How is Undertaker talking without a microphone? Like, even though the secret is that obviously he had a microphone on his ear, like he had it like hooked up. So Undertaker's standing there just like eerily, like scarily, just standing there, and he starts to talk, and he's cutting this promo, and this is one of the greatest promos Undertaker has ever cut, by the way. Highly recommend you go watch this. But and eventually in the promo, Undertaker goes, "Don't you know that you cannot destroy that does not wish to perish?" And you learned everything as children. You learned from me. You wouldn't even know about like the dark depths of hell if it wasn't for me. Stuff like that, or maybe actually no, I think that was later on in a rivalry later on, but I could be wrong. But I know that one quote really stuck to my mind. You cannot destroy that does not wish to perish. And basically, finally, after months and months of interrogating the Undertaker, shoving him, pushing him, attacking him, Undertaker didn't, bear in mind, Undertaker did not fight back. Undertaker let his brother hit him. So Kane is like beating his ass week after week and talking crap and pushing and shoving him, and Undertaker's not doing anything about it. He just gets up and walks away. So now, finally, Undertaker goes, he basically accepts his challenge at WrestleMania 14, which is in 1998. So we're in 1998 at this point, by the way. He accepts the challenge, WrestleMania 14, it's on. Like, you got it. By the way, Undertaker won that match. So let me just read this here. After 2 months of absence, The Undertaker finally agreed to face Kane at WrestleMania 14, which Undertaker won after hitting Kane with 3 tombstone pile drivers. They met once again in the first ever Inferno match, Kane's signature match. So apparently this was a Kane match. Kane, I guess it was like so it was a match basically with fire surrounding the ring. This was the first time ever that WWE has ever done something like this. Undertaker ended up winning that match. He basically he attacked Kane, and Kane's arm fell on the fire, and his arm was on fire. Kane is running up the ramp to the back with a arm on fire. He's trying to keep the fire away from him. Obviously, he had some protection underneath his sleeve, so he was wearing both sleeves. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Kane, for the most part of his career, he had one sleeve off, or for the most part of his beginning career, the beginning of his career, I should say, he had one sleeve off and one on. In this case, I believe he had both sleeves on for this. Typically in promos, he would have both sleeves on, and he would wrestle with one sleeve off, one sleeve on, and I absolutely love that attire. It's my favorite attire probably ever. But anyway, it was an Inferno match. It was at Unforgiven in your house, and Undertaker won that once again. Now it takes us to King of the Ring 1998. Kane challenged for the WWF Championship against then current champion Stone Cold Steve Austin in a first blood match. Now, this is where it gets cool. So Kane, bear in mind, Kane never talked before. Paul Bearer is the one that talks for Kane the whole time. He talks for Kane. And Kane, for the first time ever, Paul Bearer's home. He's out on an injury. I'm not 100% sure what happened with Paul Bearer. He was home on an injury, and Kane was being interviewed by Mr. McMahon, saying they were going to have a first blood match with Stone Cold Steve Austin. They wanted Kane to speak for the first time, and basically Kane, he took out this voice box and he put it on his throat. Now, this is in effect with the fire. Apparently, the fire also affected his vocal cords, his voice. So he had this voice. Now, Kane described using that thing. He hated using it because it was really difficult to speak with it. But obviously, Kane did not, he had a voice, obviously. So, but like I said, Kane did not like using the voice box. So it was very difficult to use. But anyway, when he did use it, he put it up to his throat. And he basically said, if I do not win the title, I will set myself on fire. Yeah. Paul Bearer's at home like, God damn it, man. I don't want that to happen, whatever. Eventually the match comes up. And I believe Kane was busted open first. However, oh, by the way, I'm just realizing, this is the same King of the Ring where Mankind faced The Undertaker and he was thrown off the Hell in a Cell. How did I not realize that? That was earlier in the night. Now I'm talking about the main event. Kane versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWF Championship. It was a first blood match. Never before done in WWF at the time, WWE at the time. So whoever drew first blood was the loser of the match. So Kane ended up drawing first blood. However, it was hard to see because he had the mask. Eventually, Stone Cold ended up getting busted open. And basically Kane won the championship. And I believe it was the next night that he lost again. Kane lost the championship. I believe it was to Stone Cold. Or it might have... No, I'm thinking a little ahead here. But yeah, so let me go ahead and read this article here. At King of the Ring 1998, Kane challenged for the WWF Championship against then current champion Stone Cold Steve Austin in a first blood match, which I already discussed that, with the added stipulation that if Kane did not win the championship, he would set himself on fire, as I just discussed. So now we're talking about the match here. During the match, Undertaker interfered with a steel chair and nailed Austin with a chair, which helped Kane to win the championship. Undertaker then formed a partnership with Kane after he later revealed that he intentionally attacked Austin because he didn't want his brother to be burned. So this is interesting because now Undertaker, this is after the WrestleMania match with Kane and Undertaker. Undertaker's now helping his brother. And it's pretty crazy to see this, This led to Undertaker into a rivalry with Steve Austin, who later regained the WWF title from Kane, while Kane and Mankind won the WWF Tag Team Championships at Fully Loaded in Your House. The duo were forced to team up together and defeat Kane and Mankind to win the titles. So I believe this was Undertaker and Stone Cold forming a team. Collusion and betrayal of Undertaker's arson, confession, and feuding, 1998-1999. I'm just skimming through this real quick to see where we're at here. So, Undertaker and Kane were forbidden for pinning each other. Damn. So let me read this out here for a minute. After Austin and Undertaker dropped the titles back to Kane and Mankind, Undertaker and Kane began to work as allies, facing the WWF champion Steve Austin at Breakdown in Your House in a triple threat match. Per stipulations put in place by Vince McMahon, Undertaker and Kane were forbidden from pinning each other, making it a de facto handicap match. Never heard of that. At the end of the title match, they pinned Austin at the same time following a double chokeslam. The title was vacated since there was no clear winner, and both men faced each other the following month at Judgment Day in Your House, with Austin as a special guest referee. Undertaker turned heel during the match as he betrayed Kane to side with Paul Bearer. Okay, so this is where Undertaker forms the Ministry of Darkness, I believe. Their feud continue. The match ended in no contest. Austin especially was free. Undertaker turned heel. The match ended in no contest. Austin attacked Undertaker. Their feud continued when Undertaker faced Austin at Rock Bottom in Your House in a Buried Alive match. Yeah, that was a pretty cool match too. During the match, Kane interfered and attacked Undertaker, thus helping Austin get the win. The brothers then separated from each other and went on their own. So basically, Kane ended up in early 1999, ended up being with the corporation. Undertaker is the leader of Ministry of Darkness. Next thing you know, we have the corporate ministry. They ended up joining forces, and it was the greatest faction of all time. And to me, and to this day, it's still, my opinion, one of the greatest factions of all time is the corporate ministry. It was huge. They had what, like freaking 10, 15 people in this group? Man, I can't even name all of them. I can name most of them, but not all of them. The corporation, the Undertaker, now the leader of the Ministry of Darkness, they faced each other in their second Inferno match, with Undertaker once again won. In the summer of 1999, The Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness had disbanded while Kane was involved in a lengthy partnership with X-Pac, with whom he won the WWF Tag Team Championships twice. Undertaker then attempted to reunite the Brothers of Destruction, but Kane made the ultimate decision to remain in his team with X-Pac after learning The Undertaker only wanted to use him. Shortly after, Undertaker would form the Unholy Alliance with The Big Show, which I actually forgot about that, with whom he won the WWF Tag Team Championships twice to feud with Kane and X-Pac. Undertaker eventually was injured in the fall of '99, with Kane going on his own way again. So Undertaker was basically injured, and in 2000, Undertaker would come out as the American Badass, and this is where it's so cool. Like, it just was so cool. Undertaker, so the tag team division dominance 2000-2001. Undertaker and Kane reunited again in the summer of 2000. Let's make sure I am recording here. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I am recording. At this time, Undertaker had transformed into the American Badass biker identity instead of the horror-themed dead man identity he portrayed previously. So basically, the American Badass was obviously just more of like him being himself. He and Kane challenged tag team champions Edge and Christian for the tag titles on an episode of Raw's War, but they were disqualified due to interference from Kurt Angle, so they didn't win the titles. On the August 14th episode of Raw's War, Undertaker faced Chris Benoit in a match. After the match, Undertaker was being assaulted by both Benoit and Shane McMahon. Kane came to the ring, appearing to aid the Undertaker. Kane then turned on Undertaker by chokeslamming him through the ring, and the two feuded with each other again. This culminated in a match at SummerSlam, which resulted in a no contest when Undertaker unmasked Kane, causing him to flee the ring. So Undertaker, I don't know if it was on purpose or on accident, I think it was on purpose, unmasked Kane, and Kane ran away and ended in no contest. Basically, that's what happened. Royal Rumble 2001, Kane and Undertaker teamed up, eliminating most of the field in the Royal Rumble match. Kane entered number 6 and finished second, eliminating 11 wrestlers. Now, guys, this ended up being the record for many years until Roman Reigns, I believe, beat that record with 13, I believe it was. I'm not 100% sure. I think 11 was the record for a very long time. Eliminating 11 wrestlers, while Undertaker came in at number 25 and came 6th after being eliminated by Rikishi. The two reunited later that same month, and on February 1st episode of SmackDown, they defeated Rikishi and Haku in a First Blood match. They got a shot at the tag titles at No Way Out, facing the champions, the Dudley Boys, and Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, and Edge and Christian in a tables match, but lost when Rikishi and Haku interfered. At WrestleMania 17, Kane defeated Raven and Big Show to win the WWF Hardcore Championship, while The Undertaker defeated Triple H. And at this point, the streak was not really introduced, but Undertaker did have a streak. Nobody really noticed it, though. But I'll go on to that in Undertaker's documentary separately. Undertaker and Kane started focusing on then Intercontinental Champion Triple H and WWF Champion Stone Cold Steve Austin, who had recently formed a surprise alliance known as the Two-Man Power Trip. Basically, this is when Triple H and Stone Cold turned heel, I believe. They were granted an opportunity to face Austin and Triple H at Backlash if they could defeat Edge and Christian in a no disqualification match for the titles. On April 19th episode of SmackDown, Undertaker and Kane defeated Edge and Christian to win their first WWF Tag Team Championships as a team, despite interference from Austin and Triple H. As a result of winning the titles, Brothers of Destruction earned the right to face Steve Austin and Triple H. Backlash, all major titles were on the line, but despite that, Triple H pinned Kane after using a sledgehammer, thus making him and Austin the new WWF Tag Team Champions, as well as the WWF Intercontinental Champion and WWF Champion, respectively. I'm trying to get to the good part here, which is WrestleMania 20. I'm trying to find that part, because that, to me, sticks out the most. With Kane injured, so Kane did suffer an injury, Undertaker began targeting Steve Austin in his championship, the WWF Championship. On an episode of Raw's War, Undertaker was told by police officers that his wife, Sarah, at the time, had been involved in a car accident. Undertaker arrived home, only to find out that it was all set up by Austin. At Judgment Day, Kane defeated Triple H to win the WWF Intercontinental Championship in a chain match, despite interference from Austin. Later that night, Triple H interfered in the Undertaker's WWF Championship match using his sledgehammer, allowing Austin to pin the Undertaker and retain his championship. And Diamond Dallas Page ended up being Undertaker's next target. I'm just trying to skim through this. Let me see. Blah, 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 blah. On the August 9th episode of SmackDown, the Brothers of Destruction defeated the Natural Born Thrillers, Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Haire, to win the WCW Tag Team Championships. I believe at the time WCW had went out of business. WWE bought them out. And yeah. At SummerSlam, The Undertaker and Kane defeated Diamond Dallas Page and Kanyon in a steel cage match to win their second WWF Tag Team Championships and retain the WCW Tag Team Championships, thus briefly, unifying the two titles for the first time. This also makes The Undertaker and Kane to be the first tag team in WWF to become a double tag team champions. Brothers of Destruction began a feud with Chronic, who were bought. Let me just fast forward here a little bit, because this is getting a little boring here. Unforgiven successfully defended the titles. Sporadic Encounters, 2002 to 2005. The duo first appeared together in 2002's WWF Draft, standing next to each other when Undertaker was drafted to Raw brand. The duo next appeared together during the first few moments of No Mercy, as they both respectively had title matches that night, with Undertaker challenging Brock Lesnar. So basically, they kind of like Undertaker and Kane went their separate ways. They teamed up next up again unofficially at the Royal Rumble 2003, but Undertaker turned on Kane during the Royal Rumble match and eliminated him. Later that year at the Survivor Series, an unmasked and heel Kane interfered in the Buried Alive match between Undertaker and Mr. McMahon, costing the Undertaker the match. Kane would go on to say that Undertaker was buried forever, claiming he did it because his brother was no longer a monster. And I'll read the rest of this in a minute. So this is the part I wanted to get to. Thank God. Okay, that was getting pretty boring. So eventually Brothers of Destruction, they're in and out tagging and all that, and then eventually Undertaker turns on Kane by eliminating him in the Royal Rumble. Kane gets angry about it, and he wants to challenge Kane at WrestleMania 20. Here's the thing. Survivor Series, assuming it was in November of 2003, he helped Vince McMahon win a Buried Alive match. He put Undertaker into... Now, this is Undertaker, the American Badass. Bear in mind, this is the American Badass Undertaker. He put him in the grave, and there was a truck that was there with a backhoe. There was dirt in it. They dumped the dirt in the grave. Sorry, I was looking for the word. Into the grave, and that was the last time we saw The Undertaker. Kane would basically come out. They basically had a short rivalry. Eventually, I believe, the Royal Rumble in 2004, Kane was in the Rumble. All of a sudden, one of the entrants was going to come out, but all of a sudden, gong started to play after the buzzard went out, and the gong started to play. And it basically was playing. Everybody thought Undertaker was going to come out. And Kane was just looking like, no, no way. Like, he was in shock. Like, no way. No, he's not. I buried you alive. There's no way. And that basically cost Kane the Royal Rumble in 2004 as he got eliminated after seeing that. But whoever was supposed to come out ended up coming out. But yeah, Kane, Undertaker cost Kane without actually being at the Royal Rumble. Without actually being at the Royal Rumble. Yeah, and that added fuel to the fire. And it was pretty ironic because the year before, Undertaker eliminated Kane. And now, here's Undertaker costing Kane the Royal Rumble. So now the fuel is heating up, you know? But weeks before this Royal Rumble, Undertaker was teasing to bring back the Dead Man. He was teasing with these promos, like the Dead Man's coming, he's back. And then it showed the date of WrestleMania 20 in 2004. And it was just all these like vignettes and stuff that was playing, and Kane was just like, no, you're not alive, there's no way, whatever. Until Kane would come out and cut these promos like saying, I'm gonna, Undertaker's buried, he's dead, he's not here anymore, he's gone. Until he had a funeral for the Undertaker. This was, I believe, the Raw or SmackDown before the pay-per-view. They had a segment with Kane in the ring. Kane had a casket in the ring. That looked like this to be some dirt around it in the area, as to say like he pulled the casket out from under the ground and brought it, to the ring. So now from here, this is where it gets interesting. So Undertaker's basically playing mind games with Kane weeks and weeks, but the last week, the Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, whatever it was, before the pay-per-view, the mind games he played on Kane this time was very creepy. So the gong started playing, the lights were flickering, and there were blue lights everywhere, and it was just insane. And the ring started to lift up, and it was moving very slowly, very slowly. The ring was up in the air, moving by itself, and it was so cool to see this. And Undertaker was just, like, you can feel the Undertaker's presence, but he wasn't actually there. It was so cool. So, eventually at the pay-per-view, WrestleMania 20, Undertaker comes out with Paul Bearer. This is with Paul Bearer now. Paul Bearer, the Druids, so Kane makes his entrance. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place here, but Kane makes his entrance, as normal, whatever. So he's sitting there, he's like, I buried you alive, like there's no way you're going to come out here. No way. The lights turn off. What do you hear? Oh, yeah, the Paul Bearer, I know that was the worst oh, yeah in the world, but Paul Bearer comes out with the Druids and the urn in his hand. The Druids are coming out with the torches, and the crowd is like, they're almost silent in a way. Like they're cheering for this. Like they're cheering for this, but in a way at the same time they're like, whoa, like what am I seeing? The Druids are coming out, and they're forming like an archway at the ramp with all the torches. All of a sudden, the Undertaker's gong plays. Out comes the Undertaker, the Dead Man. He comes out with a trench coat and the hat. His hair is starting to grow long again. He's growing it out, and Kane is in the ring. He's in disbelief. He's in the ring. I can't believe you're alive. I can't believe it. He's face to face with Kane for maybe a good maybe 3 minutes. Undertaker's just staring at Kane, like as if, and Kane just looking at him like he's seen a ghost. He's just like, no, this is not happening. No way. And he gets close. The bell rings. Kane gets close to the Undertaker. He touches the Undertaker, and eventually Undertaker starts attacking Kane, and the match went on for like 10 or 15 minutes. Eventually Undertaker, Tombstone, 1, 2, 3. Undertaker is 12-0 at WrestleMania. And yeah, that was, I don't know if the rivalry ended it there. Let me see. First appeared. So the two would end the feud with a match at WrestleMania 20 in 2004, in which the Undertaker returned to his Dead Man identity and defeated his half brother, Kane. The demonic duo had a short run-in with each other in 2005 at the Royal Rumble. Undertaker was in a scheduled match against Heidenreich, in a casket match. Before the match, Gene Snitsky, who was in a feud with Kane, told Heidenreich he would help him that night. Due to the interference, Heidenreich was positioned to win. Jeez, I can't read today. I'm sorry. I need to get some sleep. However, when the casket was asked to be opened, Kane emerged from the casket, coming to his aid, attacked and battled Snitsky out of the arena, allowing his brother, The Undertaker, to defeat Heidenreich and gain the victory. Originally, the initial plans were for this to lead up to the tag team at WrestleMania 21, but the match was scrapped when Undertaker instead decided to take on Randy Orton, and Kane would compete in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And by the way, that Undertaker and Randy Orton story, that basically was the first match where the streak was a goal. So Randy Orton and Undertaker, that was the first time where the streak was a goal. Like, it was like, all right, my goal is not just to defeat you at WrestleMania, but it's in kill a legend. At the time he was a legend killer. It was also to end the streak. So at that point, the streak was very important at the time. WrestleMania 20, no. WrestleMania 21, yes, it was very important. Let me see. The last time Kane and Undertaker would meet in 2005 was during an inter-promotional match where neither of the men from Raw or SmackDown were involved. While Kane, who was helping his partner Big Show against Rey Mysterio, pretending to leave, then Undertaker entered the arena, he would inevitably chokeslam his brother receive a chokeslam from Undertaker after a failed sneak attack. Notably, both brothers were faces at the time. However, Kane was a member of the Raw brand and Undertaker was a member of the SmackDown brand. Because the match was held on SmackDown, the SmackDown brand was portrayed more favorably in that year's brand warfare storyline. Kane and Big Show were portrayed as tweeners without ever officially turning in that direction. So Brothers of Destruction, basically, they were in and out as a tag team between 2006 and 2010-ish. And that also led to... finally, 2011, I believe it was. So I'm just going to fast forward here a lot. WrestleMania record, fastest pin ever. A lot of this I don't really have to read here. It's just basically Undertaker and Kane, their rivalries throughout that time frame, 2006, 2010. But I want to get to 2011 here. Final siblings rivalry feud, Kane's closure and victories, late 2009 to 2010. So this is where it gets, where we get kind of to the end of the Undertaker and Kane story of, I guess you could say officially. So this is the last time Kane and Undertaker feud against each other, where they face each other. After, of course, being in and out as a tag team between the time frame 2006, 2009-ish. On June 4th episode of SmackDown general manager Theodore Long announced that The Undertaker was found in a vegetative state by Kane, Jesus, who vowed to out the identity of Undertaker's attacker. So Undertaker, I guess, basically got attacked, and nobody knew who attacked him. I'm gonna take a guess and say it was Kane. Like I said, I don't know a lot of I know more the earlier years of the rivalry, 90% of that, I should say. But the later years, 2010s, I don't really know much. So that's why I kind of don't really have a clue here. But at Money in the Bank, Kane won the Money in the Bank ladder match to win the World Heavyweight Championship title shot at any time. Later that night, Kane chased off one of Undertaker's potential attackers, Jack Swagger, who was attacking Rey Mysterio. Kane then returned to cash in the Money in the Bank contract to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Kane would then claim that Rey Mysterio was The Undertaker's attacker, although Mysterio denied it. And Mysterio never really played a heel role, by the way. In his career, I should say. At SummerSlam, Kane defended his championship against Mysterio, during which The Undertaker returned to confront Kane and Rey Mysterio. Undertaker, however, was tombstoned by Kane, who was revealed to be The Undertaker's attacker the entire time, thus resulted in a feud between the two. Yep, I guessed it. Of course. Kane and Undertaker met at Night of Champions, which Undertaker lost. Kane had seemingly grew stronger than his older half-brother, seemingly resolving previously unfinished business from their youth when The Undertaker set Kane on fire as teenagers, later reasoning that it was because Kane was too weak. That was quote-unquote too weak. In an attempt to regain momentum over Kane, The Undertaker was boosted by the return of his former manager, Kane's father, Paul Bearer. So basically, there was a casket match, and Kane opened the casket, and Paul Bearer was in it. Kane stepped back quickly. He was in shock. He saw Paul Bearer. Undertaker's gongs played. The lights went off, came back on. Undertaker was there staring down Kane. I believe he chokeslammed him at one point. I believe there was also a SmackDown episode where he sent Kane to hell, where he rose up from the middle of the ring and he pulled Kane down, and pretty crazy stuff here. In an attempt to regain momentum, I already read that. The Undertaker betrayed Bearer by drowning him in a crypt of cement, seemingly paying Bearer back for his unforgettable act of betrayal at SummerSlam 1996 and following acts of introducing Kane. So yeah, that was basically, I believe he had a match with Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, and I guess Paul Bearer was managing them, and he said if Undertaker did not lay down for the Dudley boys, that he would fill up the crypt that Paul Bearer was strapped to. He was sitting on a chair, strapped to a chair inside of a glass crypt, and there was a cement truck in the arena. I believe this was the Great American Bash, 2005-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. And Paul Heyman threatened to pull the lever down and put the cement into that concrete crypt and basically drown Paul Bearer if he did not obey him. And by the way, the concrete ended up being mixed with oatmeal, I guess, and I don't know. So, with Bearer by The Undertaker's side like old times, the two brothers squared off again at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and a Hell in a Cell match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Bearer, however, betrayed The Undertaker by blinding him with the urn. I remember this. Allowing Kane to chokeslam The Undertaker for the victory. So basically, Paul Bearer opened the urn. There was a light that shined out of it. It's kind of a reference to 1994 SummerSlam when Undertaker faced The Undertaker and he opened up the urn and there was a light that came out and it was shining and all that. So he shined the light from the urn into Undertaker's face. It blinded him. Kane chokeslammed him. 1, 2, 3. Kane beats him again. Repaying Undertaker for the concrete crypt burial at the Great American Bash. The feud culminated, that was a bad word, sorry, in what would be the brothers' final one-on-one match, a buried alive match at Bragging Rights, in which The Undertaker once again lost in his own specialty match, this time resulting in part from interference by the Nexus. So the Nexus interfered in the match at Great American Bash, the Buried Alive. This, by the way, was the last Buried Alive match ever. To this very day, it was the last Buried Alive match. Nexus interfered. They put Undertaker in the grave. Undertaker buried him again with the backhoe, with the dirt, and Kane won the rivalry. And it was pretty cool. And that was basically the last time the Undertaker and Kane faced each other. At that point, it takes us to 2012 and 2020. This is basically just reunions here and there. I'm not going to go through this, but basically Raw 1000, I believe there was I guess Kane was supposed to be in a match with Jinder Mahal or something, and I guess Jinder Mahal was part of this cult, like this group, and they surrounded the ring. Kane was by himself. All of a sudden, Undertaker returns. This was after the end of an era match, WrestleMania 28, with Triple H and Shawn Michaels special guest referee. Undertaker returns, helps his brother out, chokeslams everybody in sight, and yeah, that was the Brothers Destruction reunion. They also faced off against the Wyatt family as well at one point. But other than that, it was just a brief reunion. You know, just every now and then they would come out. And their last match together was at Crown Jewel in October of 2018. It was against DX, D-Generation X, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. Bear in mind, Shawn Michaels was retired by The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. And this is, let's see, it was like 6 to 8 years later, I believe it is. I'm not 100% sure. Please correct me on that if I'm wrong. 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18. It's about 7 years, roughly. About 7 years. So Undertaker and Kane basically call out the D-Generation X, and finally, they accept it. No, was it? No, DX eventually, I guess, they were teasing that Shawn Michaels was going to come out of retirement, and they challenged the Brothers of Destruction. Brothers of Destruction accepted. The match happened at Crown Jewel, which was the very least memorable moment ever. Because Kane, I think, eventually got unmasked in the match by accident. It was a disaster. Triple H got injured in the match, and it was just an absolutely horrific match. It was terrible, terrible match. But yeah, Undertaker eventually retired in 2020 at WrestleMania against AJ Styles, and that was the last time Undertaker ever competed to this day. He's ever competed, and yeah. Eventually, Undertaker got put in the Hall of Fame 2022. Kane would be inducted in the Hall of Fame 2021, and that was basically it. Paul Bearer was inducted, I believe, 2014. And yeah, that's basically the Brothers of Destruction story. I know I missed out on quite a bit, like some rivalries and stuff, but I didn't want to go through that. I wanted to discuss more of the Brothers of Destruction story, like more of like their childhoods and stuff like that. Like I wanted to like go a little bit in depth with it. I didn't want to really go in depth with the matches that they had together, or like the matches they teamed up together with. They teamed up with, together a few times. They were in and out basically as a tag team. Like they would team together, they wouldn't, or they go separate ways, whether it be for good or for bad. But obviously their last reunion was every now and then. Their last real reunion was a one-off against DX, which, by the way, these two teams had never faced off against each other ever in history. 2018 was the first and last time it ever happened, so that's insane to know, honestly. So Undertaker has faced Shawn Michaels and Triple H separately. Kane has faced off against Shawn Michaels and Triple H separately, but it never, like, as tag teams, Brothers of Destruction versus DX, it's never happened. So it was pretty cool to see that, but unfortunately the match did not live up to the hype because the match itself was just terrible. Like I said, Kane got unmasked eventually, and yeah. But, like I said, they were brought into the Hall of Fame, and that was it. Kane is now the mayor of Knoxville County, Undertaker's enjoying retirement, and that's about it. That takes us to today. To this day, Kane is still the mayor, and I'm sorry, I keep saying Undertaker instead of Kane. I keep saying Kane instead of Undertaker. I'm all over the place. I really got to stop this podcast because it's pretty long, and I really appreciate you guys joining me for the podcast. Thank you so much for listening on. I almost said watching. Again, coming from the YouTube world, I'm sorry. In the description below, I will be putting the links to my Facebook page, the Ape Squad, where I post recently uploaded video podcasts, so you guys can keep up. I don't know what the next episode will be. I'm trying to think about that one. I figured I'd get this one out there. Maybe it'll be about The Undertaker by himself, and then Kane. There'll be the next episode by itself, just as Kane and his career. But at least then, when I go to discuss their careers, it will not be as the Brothers of Destruction. Well, I will briefly mention the Brothers of Destruction, but I won't talk about it as in-depth as I did today. This was just specifically Brothers of Destruction only. That's it. Like, it wasn't like their separate careers, but I will get into that. Probably my next video will probably be about The Undertaker. We'll see. But yeah, I'll be putting the links below to my YouTube channel as well. I don't upload on there, but you can go ahead and subscribe to it anyway. Screw it. It's pretty rare that I upload on it. Super rare. I uploaded it on it more recently to talk about the podcast, to go join me and listen to this podcast, of course. And yeah, I'm going to end it here before this gets any longer. So again, I'll be putting the links below where you can see the most recent podcast. Tell your friends about me, of course. Have a good night, everybody, and peace out.